Good morning, batch 23. Your today's lecture topic is gingival enlargement. Your learning outcomes for today's topic are: define gingival enlargement, list 5 major reasons for gingival enlargements, explain in detail about pathogenesis in gingival enlargement, differentiate various types of gingival enlargements. Introduction. Increase in the size of gingiva is common feature of gingival disease. Enlargements of gingiva has many causes and can manifest with various clinical characteristics. A change in the dimension of gingival tissue is always a pathological event. Gingival enlargement can be transient and reversible or can be chronic or irreversible. As in other pathological process, inflammation of the parental tissue results in 3 outcomes, which are: first one is complete resolution, second is destruction of parental tissue, or third one is fibrosis. Accepted current terminology for this condition is gingival enlargement or gingival overgrowth. These are strictly clinical descriptive terms, and we should avoid the usage of old terms such as hypertrophic gingivitis or gingival hyperplasia. Various classifications are there to classify gingival enlargement. The first one is based on the etiological factors and pathological changes, which is as follows. First is the inflammatory enlargement, which can be subclassified as acute or chronic. Second is drug-induced enlargement. Third is enlargement associated with systemic diseases or conditions, which can be further classified as condition enlargement and systemic disease causing gingival enlargement. Fourth is neoplastic enlargement, which can be further subclassified as benign tumors and malignant tumors, and false enlargement. Or localized. Localized is limited to the gingiva adjacent to a single tooth or group of teeth, or generalized involving the gingiva throughout the mouth. It is called as marginal when it is confined to marginal gingiva, or papillary when it is confined to internal papilla. It is diffuse when it involves the marginal and attached gingiva and the internal papilla also. It is called as discrete when there is an isolated sessile or pedunculated tumor-like enlargement. The degree of gingival enlargement can be scored as follows: grade 0 when there is no sign of gingival enlargement, grade 1 when the enlargement is confined to internal papilla, grade 2 when enlargement involves internal papilla and marginal gingiva, or grade 3 when enlargement is covering 3/4 or more of the crown. Then comes the inflammatory enlargement. The main etiological factors for acute inflammatory gingival enlargement is trauma. Traumatic lesions occurs when a foreign substance is forcefully embedded into gingival and the situation is complicated by the presence of microbial pathogens. Trauma-induced injuries result in a chronic process characterized by granulation tissue formation and fibrosis. Because nerve tissue does not proliferate, pain is uncommon. Inflammatory enlargement can result from chronic or acute inflammatory changes. In chronic enlargement, clinical features are: it originates as a slight ballooning of internal papilla and marginal gingiva. In early stages, it produces a life preserver shaped bulge around the involved teeth. It progresses slowly and painlessly. It can be localized or generalized. The main etiology for this type of enlargement are: first is it can be caused by prolonged exposure to dental plaque, and it is often seen in mouth breathers also. So if we see in this photograph, this is how inflammatory gingival enlargement will look like. Because of the ortho wire, the gingiva here was getting traumatized, which causes gingival enlargement. Because of gingival enlargement, the more plaque was getting accumulated, and this caused a vicious cycle and enlargement became so big. So if we want to treat it, we have to remove the irritating factor also, and have to take the concentration in removing the plaque also, followed by the proper plaque control. Gingival changes associated with mouth breathing. Patient having mouth breathing will always have gingivitis, and which will eventually cause gingival enlargement. In these type of conditions, gingiva appears red and edematous with a diffuse surface, and the exposed area is shiny. The most common site is maxillary anterior region. Altered gingiva is clearly demarcated from the adjacent unexposed normal gingiva. Harmful effect is generally attributed to irritation from surface caused by the dehydration. So this is a photograph of a patient who had the habit of mouth breathing. Here you can see enlargement is there, and you can clearly see that because of mouth breathing the tissue got dehydrated. Because of that, gingivitis and enlargement can be seen, and this you can see that it is clearly demarcated from the area which is unaffected. Acute inflammatory enlargement. First is gingival abscess. They are localized, painfully, rapidly expanding lesion that is usually of sudden onset. They are generally limited to margin gingiva or interdent papilla. In early stages, it appears as red swelling with a smooth shiny surface. If it is permitted to progress, the lesion generally ruptures spontaneously. So here, if you see in photograph, here there is localized collection of pus in gingiva, which is known as gingival abscess, and because of this, there is an increase in the size of gingiva, which is causing gingival enlargement. Drug-induced gingival enlargement. Anticonvulsants, calcium channel blockers, and immunosuppressants are prescribed to patients with serious health concerns such as epilepsy, hypertension, and organ transplantation respectively. Drug-induced gingival enlargement is one of the major dental problems due to impaired oral hygiene, biofilm accumulation, and gingival inflammation, and it possesses a risk for the general health of these patients. Most common forms of drug-induced gingival enlargement are caused by the use of anticonvulsants, calcium channel blockers, and immunosuppressants. The prevalence of these type of enlargement substantially varies for different medications, but these drugs are mainly associated. About 20 other medications are also have been linked to drug-induced gingival enlargement. There is an estimate that 30 to 80% of patients will have overgrowth of the lesions. Genetic factors, drug dosage, and local factors can affect the development and severity of the drug-induced gingival enlargement. Most common clinical features of drug-induced gingival enlargement are: they are painless, bead-like enlargement of the intern papilla. Margin and papillary enlargement unites. The lesions are mulberry-shaped, firm, pale pink, and resilient. They are minutely lobulated surface, and they have no tendency to bleed. They are not seen in the edentulous spaces. Genetic predisposition is a suspected factors. They are chronic and slowly increasing in size. There are different drugs. This table shows different drugs which are known to predispose to gingival enlargement. They have been classified according to as anticonvulsants, immunosuppressants, and calcium channel blockers. Out of this, phenytoin, cyclosporin, and nifedipine are one of the most commonly seen drugs which causes gingival enlargement. This photograph shows the non-inflammatory and inflammatory mechanism for drug-induced gingival enlargement. This, if you see here, when drug-induced gingival enlargement is there can be non-inflammatory mechanism or inflammatory mechanism. In non-inflammatory mechanism, there is decrease in folic acid uptake and decrease in aldosterone synthesis. Because of decrease in folic acid uptake, there can be defect in collagenase action, because of which there can be upregulation of keratinocytes growth factors. In inflammatory mechanism, direct toxic effects of drugs in the GCF and bacterial plaque can be seen, which will cause upregulation of TGF beta. So these are the characteristics of drug-induced gingival enlargement. This part is taken from book Linde. If you want to read more, you have to refer Linde book, because this is not given in Carranza. So there is variation in inter and intra-patient pattern. There is predilection for anterior gingiva. It is seen most commonly in children. Onset will be within 3 months from the usage of the drug. There will be change in gingival contour leading to modification of gingival size. Enlargement is first observed at the intern papilla. There will be change in gingival color. There will be increase in gingival exudate. There will be bleeding on provocation. It is found in gingiva with or without bone loss, but is not associated with attachment loss. Pronounced inflammatory response of gingiva in relation to the plaque is present. Reductions in dental plaque can limit to severity of the lesion. Must be using phenytoin, cyclosporin A or certain calcium channel blockers. The plasma concentration to induce the lesion have not been clearly defined in humans. So, if you want to take a proper case history, this is how the sequence should be followed. So first you should ask the medication, including the non-prescription ones from the patient. The purpose of asking them so that we can identify the current drug or its effect relevant to oral care. These questions when asked, we should always ask why each drug is taken, and the dose frequency should be also noticed. Then you should ask whether patient is noticing any side effect from these drugs. So after taking all these questions, you should be able to identify preparations to investigate in drug reference. Drug effects or side effects may influence patient management, and you should consider medical conditions which are being managed pharmacologically and their effect on oral care. Histopathology. In drug-induced gingival enlargement, there will be pronounced hyperplasia of connective tissue and epithelium. Acanthosis of epithelium is seen. Elongated retrapex will be there. Connective tissue exhibits densely arranged collagen bundles with an increase in number of fibroblasts and new blood vessels. Anticonvulsants. 50% of the patients receiving anticonvulsants will have drug-induced gingival enlargement. Enlargement is not related to the dosage of the drug. Phenytoin stimulates proliferation of fibroblast-like cells and epithelium. Phenytoin may induce a decrease in collagen degradation as a result of the production of inactive fibroblastic collagenase. Immunosuppressants. Cyclosporin is a potent immunosuppressive agent which is used to prevent organ transplant rejection, and it is used to treat several diseases of autoimmune origin. More vascularized than benign enlargement will be seen in immunosuppressant caused gingival enlargement. It occurs in approximately 30% of the patients who are receiving the drug. It is seen more frequently in children. Microscopic finding of many plasma cells plus the presence of an abundant amorphous extracellular substance has suggested that the enlargement caused by immunosuppressants is a hypersensitivity response to the cyclosporin. Calcium channel blockers. Drug developed for the treatment of cardio conditions such as hypertension, angina pectoris, coronary artery spasm and cardiac arrhythmias come under calcium channel blockers. The dihydropyridine derivative isarapidine can replace nifedipine in some cases and does not induce gingival overgrowth. Nifedipine is also used with cyclosporin kidney transplant recipients, and the combined use of both drug induces larger overgrowths. One more drug which is now giving reports or we have studies which is causing drug induced gingival enlargement is oral contraceptive, and it is known as oral contraceptive associated gingivitis also. Oral contraceptives are one of the most widely utilized classes of drugs in the world. Today, as a result of the early onset of menarche, changing social norms and increased emphasis on family planning, the use of oral contraceptive has increased. There are various clinical reports which has described gingival enlargement which is induced by oral contraceptives in otherwise healthy females with no history of gingival overgrowth. In all the cases, the increased gingival mass was reversed when the oral contraceptive use was discontinued or the dosage was reduced. Then comes idiopathic enlargement. Idiopathic gingival fibromatosis is a rare condition of undetermined cause. It has been designated by such terms as gingival stomatosis, elephantiasis, idiopathic fibromatosis, hereditary gingival hyperplasia, and congenital familial fibromatosis. So whenever there is a gingival enlargement or fibromatosis for whom there is an undetermined cause, it is classified under idiopathic gingival enlargement. For this type of enlargement, etiology is unknown. Some cases have hereditary basis. Autosomal recessive in some cases and autosomal dominant in some other cases. It begins with eruption of primary or secondary dentition and may regress after the extraction of the offending tooth. Enlargement associated with systemic disease. There are many systemic diseases which can develop oral manifestation. The condition affect the periodontium by two different mechanisms. First is magnification of an existing inflammation initiated by dental plaque. Second is manifestation of the systemic disease independently of the inflammatory status of the gingiva. Then comes condition enlargement. This type of enlargement occurs when the systemic condition of the patient exaggerates or distorts the usual gingival response to dental plaque. Bacterial plaque is necessary for this type of enlargement initiation. Three types of conditional gingival enlargement are there. First one is hormonal, which can be seen during pregnancy or puberty. Second is nutritional, which is mainly associated with vitamin C deficiency, and allergic. And there are also non-specific condition enlargement. First is enlargement in pregnancy. Gingival enlargement is common pathology seen in pregnancy. Clinically, it manifests as a single mass or multiple tumor-like masses at the gingival margin. Margin gingival enlargement during pregnancy results from the aggravation of previous inflammation, and its incidence has been reported as 10 to 70%. Sometimes the lesion can be observed as single enlargement, which are referred to as pregnancy tumors. But these type of tumors are not neoplasm, but they represent an inflammatory response to microbial plaque which has been modified by the patient conditions. Overall, pregnancy-associated gingival enlargement manifests with highly varied clinical pictures. Enlargement is usually generalized, but it tends to be more prominent interproximally than on facial and lingual surfaces. The enlarged gingiva is bright red or magenta. It is soft and friable, and it has smooth shiny surface. Bleeding will occur spontaneously or on slight provocation. The lesion appears as a discrete mushroom-like and flattened spherical mass that protrudes from the gingival margin and more often from the interproximal spaces. In this type of patient, there will be an increase in level of both progesterone and estrogen. Hormonal change induce change in vascular permeability, leading to gingival edema and an increased inflammatory response to dental plaque. So here you can see there is a marginal enlargement. The marginal enlargement during pregnancy results from the aggravation of previous inflammation. It does not occur without the presence of bacterial plaque, and it varies from patient to patient considerably. So if you probe it, it will bleed spontaneously, and it tends to be more prominent interproximally. Similar forms of gingival changes associated with hormonal variations during pregnancy can be seen. Oral care in pregnant women should be meticulous, and patients should be treated by removal of plaque and calculus. Treatment of pyogenic granuloma consists of the removal of the lesions and elimination of the irritating factors. The recurrence rate of pyogenic granuloma is 15%. Enlargement in puberty. It occurs both in female adolescents. It appears in the area where the plaque accumulation is there. Mainly the facial gingiva is enlarged. Clinical features are generally associated with chronic inflammatory gingival disease. After puberty, the enlargement undergoes spontaneous reduction after the plaque and calculus has been removed. The mechanical action of the tongue and the extrusion of food prevent a heavy accumulation of local irritants of lingual surfaces. That's why mainly the facial gingiva is affected. Then comes enlargement in vitamin C deficiency. It is also known as nutrition associated gingival enlargement. Malnutrition has historically associated with several oral lesions. Gingival enlargement has been observed in cases where the chronic vitamin C deficiency is seen. It is also known as the scurvy. The lesions are no longer common, but gingival enlargement is still considered a part of classic description of scurvy. In clinical manifestation, gingival enlargement with vitamin C deficiency is marginal. The gingiva is bluish red, soft and friable, and it has a smooth shiny surface. Hemorrhage that occurs spontaneously or on slight provocation, and surface necrosis with pseudomembrane formations are one of the most common features. Acute vitamin C deficiency does not of itself cause gingival inflammation, but it does cause hemorrhage, collagen degeneration, and edema of the gingival connective tissue. So this is a diagram of a patient who is having scurvy. So in this, patient will have pale skin, sunken eyes, and patient will lose his teeth also. Combined effect of acute vitamin C deficiency and inflammation produces the massive gingival enlargement in scurvy. So we have discussed already the clinical features. Then comes plasma cell gingivitis. It is also referred to as atypical gingivitis and plasma cell gingivostomatitis. It is often consists of mild marginal gingival enlargement. It is extend to the attached gingiva, and the localized lesions are referred to as plasma cell granuloma. Clinical features are the gingiva appears red, friable, and sometimes granular, and it bleeds easily. It usually does not induce a loss of attachment. It is located in the oral aspect of attached gingiva and therefore differs from plaque-induced gingivitis. So this is a clinical photograph. You can see here the area which is enlarged and inflamed, and you can see there is a clear demarcation line from the area which is not affected. This is the demarcation line. See how inflammation is seen, and you can see that local factors are also present which are aggravating the inflammation, and inflammation is getting more aggravated and there is enlargement. You can see how red it is, and it will be soft and friable in nature, and it will bleed on slight provocation. Then comes non-specific condition enlargement, also known as vaginal granuloma. They are tumor-like gingival enlargement that is considered an exaggerated condition response to minor trauma. They can be discrete spherical tumor-like mass with a pedunculated attachment to a flattened cleoid-like enlargement with a broad base. They are bright red or purple or either friable or firm. Histopathology: they appears as a mass of granulation tissue with chronic inflammatory cellular infiltration. Endothelial proliferation is seen. Formation of numerous vascular spaces will be there, and the surface epithelium is atrophic in some areas and hyperplastic in others. Then comes systemic disease causing gingival enlargement. First is leukemia. Clinical features are the enlargement may be diffuse or marginal. It can be localized or generalized. It appears as a diffuse enlargement of gingival mucosa. Oversized extension of margin gingiva or a discrete tumor-like interproximal masses can be seen. Gingiva is bluish red and has a shiny surface. Consistency is moderately firm. There will be a tendency towards friability and hemorrhage. So this is how it will look like. All these photographs are available in 13th edition Carranza in the last portion where atlas of gingival disease is given. You can just look over there, and a brief description of these photographs is also given there. Then comes neoplastic enlargement. These are the benign tumors of the gingiva. The first one is epulis. The term epulis is a generic term which is used clinically to designate all discrete tumors and tumor-like masses of the gingiva, but the most lesions referred to as epulis are inflammatory rather than neoplastic. Then comes fibroma. Fibroma arises from the gingival connective tissue or from the periodontal ligament. They are slow-growing spherical tumors that tend to be firm and nodular but may be soft or vascular. The fibromas are usually pedunculated. Then comes malignant tumors of gingiva. The first one is carcinoma. Oral cancer accounts for less than 3% of all malignant tumors in the body, but is the 6th most common cancers in males and the 12th in females. The gingiva is not a frequent site of oral malignancy because only 6% of the cancer cases of oral cancer gingiva is affected. Then comes false enlargement, when these type of enlargement are not true enlargement of gingival tissue but may appear as a result of increase in size of the underlying osseous or dental tissue. The massive increase in size of the area can be seen if the underlying osseous or dental tissue are more or they are bigger in size. Because of underlying osseous lesions, then comes underlying osseous lesions. It occurs mostly in tori or exostosis, but it can also occur in Paget's disease, fibrous dysplasia, chirurgism, central giant cell granuloma, ameloblastoma, osteoma, and osteosarcoma. Gingival tissue can appear normal or may have unrelated inflammatory changes. During the various stages of eruption, particularly of primary dentition, the labial gingiva may show a bulbous marginal distortion, which is caused by superimposition of bulk of the gingiva on normal prominence of the enamel in the gingival half of the crown. It is also called as developmental enlargement. Physiologic and ordinary presence, and it presents no problem. So if you see, this is how a drug-induced enlargement patient came to our department. So first what we did, we maintained the oral hygiene of the patient. Then we referred the patient to the general physician so that he can either substitute the drug or reduce the dosage of the drug. So the drug was substituted. After that, gingivectomy and gingivoplasty was done for the patient, and this is how the patient will look like when patient is maintaining good oral hygiene post-operatively for a longer duration of time. This is one more patient. In this, inflammation was inflammatory and patient was a chronic smoker. So first we did scaling and planning for this patient, followed by tobacco cessation therapy. When patient has stopped tobacco uses and was maintaining good oral hygiene, it got healed on itself and non-surgical treatment of gingival enlargement was done. So this is how the gingival condition of patient was after 3 weeks of the intervention. You can see that without any surgical therapy, we have achieved around 90% improvement in the gingival condition of the patient. In most clinical cases of gingival enlargement, the clinical appearance is complicated by inflammation, bleeding and swelling, which further creates difficulty in identifying the cause and pathological process. A thorough knowledge of gingival enlargement and patient systemic and oral medical histories are critical for designing the treatment and maintaining outcomes. Because some gingival enlargement forms are linked to systemic and severe disease, this approach is also essential for securing the patient's safety before treatment is initiated. So if you have any doubt or query, you can ask us. Department of Odontology will appreciate your feedbacks. Thank you.